What happens when you pit the two best players in the world against each other in a clash of might and magic? We're about to find out because it's tournament time. Felkon and the High Elves going up against Tlaxtlan Soothsayer and the Skaven in the Herbert Walker League Finals. Probably the two most successful competitive players on the planet for Warhammer 2, battling it out in the wastelands outside the Cliff of Beasts. For the Skaven, the Ratmen Avengers have assembled and rallied around their abomination, a powerful core of characters here, with Plague Daddy Skrolk at the helm and Warp Lightning Cannons for firepower. Well, for the High Elves, the name of the game is mobility, and it starts with a Noble Chariot, consistently the best pure chariot in Warhammer 2 since the Queen and the Crone. Thing is a beast against all targets, really. Way better than you'd expect in duels, probably better than it has any right to be, and a complete bulldozer when faced with hordes of infantry. But it's not just the stat line and performance that makes it a top tier choice. It's the healing. And this should come as no surprise whatsoever, given the Everqueen synergy with single entities. Her Star of Avalorn has been maybe the best item in the game for a year and a half, an AoE regrowth that heals for more than 1,000 while making her Earthbloods cheaper. Fortunately, it also encourages blobbing tactics, which is one of the biggest problems Warhammer 2 is facing currently, but Felkon has a full build of Rangers, Lyrian Reaver Archers, and Silver Helms, rocking that Cav core that has become so popular for the Azure these days. Rangers are cheap, cost efficient against the Skaven, useful against their lack of armor, and Larry the Everqueen on her Great Eagle has Earthblood in the Star with her Area of Effect passive. Boon of Isha will help prevent terror routes near that A-bomb, and perhaps more importantly, make it easier to bypass that physical resistance and goon out the assassin, leaving Skrolk isolated. On the other side of the field, we got Soothsayer in a defensive formation, 2 Warp Lightning Cannons, and a beautiful cast of characters here. You may have an army, but we have an abomination. It's Skrolk, a Warlock Engineer, and an Assassin. Now, Skrolk's role is obvious. He summons things, beats up people in melee, and more importantly, gets guaranteed damage from the Liber Roboticus and Rod of Corruption. The Assassin's there to help him out in duels with Assassin's Trophy, but the Warlock is using a spell I don't think I've ever shown on this channel. It's called Flensing Ruin. Kind of like Final Transmutation, but it lowers enemy armor by 30 and deals about 25% less damage. But Soothsayer brought this for a very specific purpose, which is to counter the Star of Avalorn. As we said, to get maximum healing from the Star and Earthblood, High Elves need to blob up, and when they do, hit them with Flensing Ruin and force those Noble Chariots to hit the healing cap early. And they will hit that healing cap. It's pretty hard to avoid that against the Everqueen and all her support abilities. Now, Soothsayer has 2 Warp Lightning Cannons to force the pace of play here and put some pressure on the High Elves from long range. Silver Helms are probably going to be the juiciest targets to shoot at in the opening stages of this battle. They're a problem for Skaven, as are most cheaper, cost-efficient knights. Good charge, great stats when Martial Prowess is active, and they don't need much AP to beat up on Ratmen. And any salvo that strikes them will actually kill off soldiers. Healing won't bring them back. A player like Felkon will have probably too easy a time dodging with his single entities against these cannons, so might as well shoot the Cav instead. Felkon's gonna have his work cut out for him here, though. The Skaven build is a tough nut to crack at the highest levels of play. Lots of slaves and clan rats, as one might expect. 2 rat ogres, Council Guard Storm Vermin, and the Ratmen Avengers at the center of that box. And you can see Skrolk has already pushed outside that box to do some summoning. This is a great play. It's something you should try to emulate if you're playing as the Skaven. You see the Rat Ogre bodyguards rolling alongside him. He pushed outside the box to get that summon to kind of stuff up the advance of Felkon way out in front of the formation. Give those Warp Lightning Cannons some more time to fire. Felkon's going right in with the Noble Chariots and with these Silver Helms, and the Helped Abomination will meet them and greet them and say hello with those Warp Grinder Power Fists and grind them into dust and spurts of crimson blood. Here we go, baby. It's an A-bomb bounding into the middle of their formation, slamming it home, and this is going to be painful for the Silver Helms. Earthblood will catch them out and heal them up. Nicely played from Felkon there. Gotta get those heals in early before they start dropping models. And the Rat Ogres, sumo wrestling on top of the rest of these Silver Helms and punching them around with their own Warp Grinder Power Fist. Alarielle has not committed to the fight yet. Got that Earthblood to keep the Silver Helms topped off and give a little bit of healing to those Noble Chariots. We'll heal about 450 in an AoE, which is always nice. And we've got the Rod of Corruption from Skrolk, melting away the Rangers on the front lines. You'll see him fighting in and amongst the infantry, deal a lot of damage to them. AoE Rod of Corruption, like a Flock of Doom, gonna be pretty useful for clearing out all this chaff, getting rid of the infantry, so it's only Cav left. And when it's only Cav, that's when Skrolk and the Warlock Engineer can force out the blobs, force out the healing, then hit them with the Flensing Ruin and the Liber Roboticus. Keep that A-bomb and Council Guard nearby, and even Noble Chariots and Larry might struggle to chunk through all that HP. Rangers have made it into melee. They have that 20% dodge chance, which will be completely ignored by Skrolk's magic sensor. And this poor Noble Azur, well, the Rat Ogre shall take him to Pound Town, getting suplexed with the boys. Yeah, I don't think he's alive anymore. That hurt. Maybe a little bit overkill, but all good. A-bomb retreating into the safety of the rear to deal with the Noble Chariots and Silverhelms, who have dove into the back lines to try to shut down those Warp Lightning Cannons, and they do need to shut those down for sure. See, the Noble Chariots are pushing through the Council Guard, using their mass to push all the way through those Unbreakable Storm Vermin, which you might think that was super dangerous, and I'd say, yeah, maybe it was. Rat Ogres were right behind, but I mean, he got into the cannons. That's exactly what he needed to do, so I guess nicely played from Felkon to force path his way through and get in on the high-value artillery. Looks like some Illyrian Reaver archers charging into the rear. Noble Chariots are completely surrounded, but Skaven don't have amazing burst damage in close quarters combat. It's not really what their faction is known for. If you had some Rattling Guns or Warp-like Jezzails, it might be a different story, but that would obviously be from range. Up close and personal, they don't have the burst to get rid of those Noble Chariots quickly, and especially when they're supported by Alarielle and the Star of Avalorn. We know that as soon as they start taking damage, Larry will be right there to help out. But these Noble Chariots, even though they're completely surrounded, will carve a path of destruction through the Thagaraki ranks. Their halberds flashing in the midday sun, chopping off heads left, right, and center. Alarielle is nearby, and here comes a massive charge from Felkon and the rest of the cavalry contingent. Full-on blob fight now. It looks like another Rod of Corruption. My Rod of Corruption has a 60-second cooldown. Star of Avalorn coming in right after it. That's a huge heal and a Flensing Ruin to counteract it. Now, the Star of Avalorn will heal for about the same amount of damage that an Overcast Flensing Ruin will deal. But again, the point is to make sure that those Noble Chariots and Alarielle hit their healing cap. There's no way he's going to outburst all those heals, but he wants to force out all the heals early on in the game so that any damage that comes later on will be permanent and there will be no coming back from it. And I gotta say, watching players of this caliber, you pick up on things you've never noticed before, and it would never cross my mind to let Noble Chariots charge directly into braced, in-depth formations of Council Guard, but Felkon said, screw it. Clearly knew they had the mass to easily push through. No wasted time or motion flanking around whatsoever, went right up the center and immediately caused all kinds of disarray in Soothsayer's backfield. Meanwhile, Council Guard are still holding out on the front ranks. It's not really where they want to be. They don't want to be fighting Rangers. They will be able to win that engagement, but they'd like to be back beating up on the Noble Chariots with their bonus for Large and their armor piercing, and giving Skrolk that Guardian aura. Of course, Alarielle will be able to bypass that, so that will be less effective here because of the boon of Isha, but normally having Council Guard near your leader, if they're trying to good him out, is pretty important. High Elves have all of their important stuff directly on top of the Hell Pit Abomination, but you can tell that Soothsayer came prepared for this kind of battle. He has not only the Rod of Corruption for the AoE, like Flock of Doom, anytime the Silverhelms, Illyrian Reavers, whatever, charges in. He also has the Warp Shard armor on his Warlock Engineer, which also deals DOT when anything touches them. So essentially, everything surrounds the Warlock Engineer, and Skrolk trying to goon him out, he'll be draining their life out over time as well. So you can see that Felkon has broken the box. Almost all the infantry support for the Skaven is gone, being ridden down by the superior mobility of the High Elves, and that means that he's going to be able to prey on all these routing troops. I don't think any of them will make it to the white line before they shatter, and that means that it's going to be looking at that core. Pretty much the Hellpit Abomination, the three characters, Skrolk the Assassin and the Warlock Engineer, and the Council Guard, and that's pretty much all that remains for Soothsayer's army. So Felkon's done a great job so far, breaking apart that defensive formation, running down the stragglers, and preventing them from returning to the fold. And of course, what's a good Warhammer battle without some good decapitations to boot? Ratmen relieved of their craniums, and the Skaven slaves and clan rats will not see another morn. Well done from the Silverhelms from Felkon. They're well over 120 kills at this point in the battle, and Soothsayer might be on life support. A-bomb stomping forward, actually deceptively quick. Closed the gap on those Illyrian Reaver archers super fast, and just managed to escape with their lives. Glowing with all that warpstone injected into his body, swollen to distended and obscene proportions, And we got Warlock Engineer and some more summons from Skrolk Daddy going off against these Rangers. They just chased off the remaining Warp Lightning Cannon crew, which means I don't think there will be any more range firepower for the Skaven in this battle either. Battle bar is pretty much even, maybe a little bit in the favor of the Azure at this point. Lyrian Reaver Archers, Silver Helms, both Noble Chariots, and Larry the Everqueen are all still alive. Rangers chased down by Skrolk and the Warlock Engineer. Hellpit Abomination has not used its too horrible to die proc yet, and remember, it can get that twice, depending on how much it heals, so we might be seeing a life-saving burst of HP from it at some point this battle, and that could be a game changer for sure. Another summon about to despawn. Alarielle going in, causing fear as she charges. Noble Chariots backing her up. Imbued by that boon of Isha, they'll be able to go toe-to-toe with that Hellpit Abomination if it's isolated. And even worse for Soothsayer here, the Lyrian Reaver Archers be able to do a number on that monster. Low armor on that thing. He's gonna have to pull it back out of range of those Reaver Archers, but the problem with that creates a window of opportunity for Alarielle and the Noble Chariot to goon him out. I don't think there's really a right answer here. You pretty much just have to commit it to melee and hope you get some regen procs from Too Horrible to Die. Get him near Skrolk and the Assassin and force more heals out from Alarielle. Here it comes. Another Star of Avalorn dropping down. Hellpit Abomination dropping quite low, surrounded by a lot of powerful weapon strength. All of this arcing fire coming in from the Lyrian Reaver Archers, but the Assassin, Skrolk, and the Warlock Engineer with that Warp Shard armor are all still there. You can see those flashing effects over the top of the Rangers. They are melting under this combination of the Rod of Corruption, which doesn't have uses. I believe it's still unlimited uses, which this is the 4th or 5th time he's used it this battle. And that Warp Shard armor, which also doesn't have a cooldown. It is always draining in a Mortis-like effect. You can see the High Elves are beginning to break off. Hellpit Abomination super low, and let's see if it gets a heal here. It does. Too Horrible to Die just procced, and he's back up. Another 2,500 HP at least. That's a massive swing on the balance bar, and keeping that Hellpit Abomination alive is going to be of paramount importance if he wants enough DPS to chunk through what remains of the Noble Chariot and of Alarielle the Everqueen. Rangers are swarming into the breach. Lyrian Reaver Archers also cycle charging because there's not much left for them to do. They're out of ammo. They expended all their ammunition firing into the A-bomb, and cycle charges are the name of the game for Felkon and the High Elves. He certainly got the mobility to pull it off, but there's going to come a point where there's no infantry left. The Council Guard are on their last legs. The summons are about to disintegrate. And at that point, cycle charging with Lyrian Reaver Archers into Skrolk and the Assassin won't do a whole lot. But finally, the A-bomb goes down. Noble Chariots are able to slice it down, and the monstrosity is off the field for good. We will not be seeing it again, and Alarielle will retreat to the safety of the skies. Might look to get Skrolk isolated. Remember, when you cycle charge with this thing, with their higher mass, they can push someone like Skrolk or the Assassin out of the safety of those Council Guard, send them flying, and then it will be easier for the Noble Chariots to deal the damage they want to do. Rangers are coming back to the fold. Alarielle thinking about committing back into melee combat. Assassin is at 1/3 health. Skrolk is at 2/3 health, and Alarielle landing on top of him. Council Guard nearby. That boon of Isha. I mean, Alarielle really was the perfect choice in this battle. No question about it. Boon of Isha to get through the Council Guardian aura. Heals for days, obviously, but her healing was not enough to save one of her brothers. Noble Chariot has fallen, its skeleton on the ground next to Skrolk. The other Noble Chariot continuing to drop lower and lower. Assassin's Trophy on the Pigeon Lady, dropping her stats into pretty disgustingly low territory. Noble Chariot breaks off, and Alarielle is now isolated. I think we will see that Noble Chariot return, but will it be enough? The Warlock Engineer, the Council Guard, and Skrolk together. The Assassin, all of them combined, have made for such a powerful HQ that the High Elves have had trouble busting through. They haven't quite been able to crack this nut. We broke the box down well, but can they finish off the high value threats? Can they finish off Skrolk? Can they kill him and the Assassin? Balance swinging back in the High Elves' favor. Alarielle with some cycle charging, which she should be able to do because her Rangers are committed to the fight, because her Lyrian Reaver Archers are committed to the fight. She's allowed to cycle charge. She might be able to goon out the Assassin and Skrolk. We're 12 minutes in, and it's still neck and neck. Stampede of hooves heralding the return of the noble chariot with a limp dick charge. I don't even know where it just stopped dead in its tracks. I'm not sure why. That might be a problem because that noble chariot needs momentum. Oh, it managed to extricate itself from a dire situation. But with Assassin's Trophy going down once more and no more heals because the noble chariot is almost assuredly at the healing cap and 1 or 2 hits from death. This might be a very dangerous situation for Felkon. Bounce bar still even. Noble chariot has broken off, and this time I'm not sure we will see it again. Yeah, it's at 50 HP. I'd be very surprised if it returned. Warlock Engineer is about to die. 1 hit from Alarielle might do it, but she's dropping low. Bounce bar swings. Soothsayer and the Skaven will take this battle with a sliver of HP on their 3 most important characters. Skaven Avengers managed to carry the day, but barely. They had to put in maximum effort and more to ensure that victory. That was a tough fight. That was a really epic game. Well played to both Felkon and Tlaxtlan Soothsayer. That was game 3 of the Herbert Walker League Finals. It was a best of 7 series and it went all 7 games. I don't think we'll be casting every single game from the series, but probably at least 1 or 2 more, I would think. Yeah, that was really fun to watch and some great moves from both players as well. So, for Felkon, Noble Chariots were a force of nature, obviously. 114 kills, 80 kills. They are very difficult for most factions to shut down. I think you guys can see the synergy that Alarielle has with them, with that Star of Avalorn, with the Earthbloods. Making them hit that healing cap every single game reliably is just such an important factor because it means you're always getting ridiculous value out of them. Because they already have great stats. They already have the martial prowess, and the fact that you're able to get them back to their martial prowess, if they lose it, just means that they're rocking absurd stats for a chariot the entirety of the battle. But there were some sleeper picks this game too. I mean, Rangers with over 200 kills, Silverhelm's racking up close to 200 as well, Lyrian Reavers racking up close to 200. Obviously, those numbers are inflated when you're fighting against Skaven, but he had some great cycle charging, great positioning, and that move with the Noble Chariots past Stormvermin and Halberds was really impressive, and I would have never thought of doing that myself. And for Soothsayer, I mean, that box play, it is not easy to play Skaven at this level. It just isn't. It's very difficult to deal with these kind of mobile builds that the High Elves brought, but he was able to do it by keeping his important characters alive, by bringing Flensing Ruin, which is a spell you don't see very often, keeping the Warlock Engineer in that fight, and draining the life of everything as they blob up. And you know they're going to blob. Hit them with those spells, hit them with the DOTs, and you can carry the day. Well played.